I've always firmly believed that history is important. If you don't learn lessons from history, you make the same mistakes, doomed to repeat them, as they say. Well, there's a general agreement, I'm glad to say, in the West that Nazism and National Socialism and Fascism are wrong. And that's a good thing. There's much less of an agreement about the harms that communism's caused. Look at Diane Abbott, who said that what Mao did was largely good. Well, tell that to the 40 million people he starved to death, or the thousands that he had shot in the back of the head. Oh, you can't, because he killed them. A deeply harmful, evil man who gets a free ride because he had a different emblem on his aircraft. Well, something I've noticed is that if you watch aircraft videos, they're particularly careful when covering the Second World War to not show swastikas. Now, if they were showing it and saying, hey, look at this Me-262 Sturmvogel, weren't the Nazis great, then that's a problem. But if they're showing that plane to pretend it didn't have that emblem on is folly. But that's what happens. Because you can get your content scrubbed from YouTube if you show a swastika, even if it's in historical context. Well, this is an evil regime that stamped its symbol on everything to make sure that everyone was always aware who was boss and who was making the decision. It's at the heart of the evil that is Nazism. But when you start erasing it, you're creating a false echo, a version of reality. Upset that someone might be upset that they see a swastika. Well, if you want to know what the Nazis did, you need to know what the Nazis did. It wasn't having that symbol on their tanks and planes that destroyed much of Europe and killed tens of millions. It was the ideology it represented. The last decade, the West has been so obsessed with not upsetting people or having uncomfortable conversations that we sanitize our history by scrubbing swastikas off tanks. Didn't make them less harmful, just makes them less accurate. What we really need to focus on is what harm most people did and why, and an openness about what harm communism caused in different countries. I remember 1989, the end of communism, the Berlin Wall falling, the chain of hope across the Baltic states. There was a feeling that communism had failed, but the left has regrouped, redefined as woke, created a new religion around a communist ethos. And the media, the political institutions have adopted it. So whilst that goes completely unchallenged by mainstream media, implemented by the forces of justice and many politicians, we get people banned from YouTube for having a factually correct symbol on a model aircraft.